Hey there, welcome back to Ink and Imagination. I'm Craig Cruz, author of MUSSOPO and His Great Adventure, and we're here to read today. It's my hope that through this reading of my book that I can encourage you to not only read but to write. Let's get started. Chapter 7, Remember When. The three friends spent many days walking, talking, and learning more and more about each other. They all had very different stories to tell. Star did not have a lot of experience to share in her short life, but she did share what she remembered. MUSSOPO told the others how beautiful his home is. "What will I do when you are reunited with your loved ones? Where will I go and who will love me?" Star asked MUSSOPO sadly. "Why, you are part of my family now. You will stay with me and my family. I wouldn't have it any other way," MUSSOPO said, not having to think about it. "What if your family doesn't like me?" Star worried. "What's not to like?" replied MUSSOPO. "What if there's no room?" She worried more. "There will always be room," the possum smiled. "I wish I was a possum." Star's voice trailed off. MUSSOPO smiled again. Moki interrupted the conversation with questions of his own. "I do not think that I can live with opossums in the forest. I am meant to live with a family. I long to be with a family that will play with me and love me, one that I can protect, one that will feed me soft food." "We will play with you and love you. You can protect us. You have proven that already. You would be good to have as part of our family," MUSSOPO said. "Thank you, but dogs are meant to be with a human family, and my heart longs to be with one," Moki said, lying down. "If dogs are meant to be with human families and possums are meant to be in the forest, then where are rats meant to be?" asked Star. MUSSOPO thought for a minute before answering. "I don't know that I can answer that exactly, but I do know that you are supposed to be right where you are. Could you imagine life any different?" Star also thought for a moment, and then thought to herself that she had never had anyone care for her the way that these friends do, and she was thankful. The three friends finished resting and then walked on, knowing that night would be upon them soon. Not far from the three friends roamed the two rats. They were still constantly causing trouble everywhere they went. They were sneaky and mean. They would climb a tall tree and look for another animal and run at once to try to cause harm. When the two would stop and rest, they didn't have meaningful conversations like the others. Their time was spent talking about what they would do to the rat or the possum when they found them, or how they would trick the nasty dog and cause him harm. They made plans and changed plans and then changed plans again, each time more devious than the last. Each time involved harmful plans for the three friends. Rats will eat almost anything that they can find, so they were not staying hungry. If it was pliable, then it was eaten. From bugs to berries, they filled their bellies as they walked. When they finally settled down for the night, they didn't sleep together for warmth. They stayed separate and shivered from the cold all night. They also preferred to sleep during the day, but they knew that their prey was sleeping at night and walking during the day, so they chose to keep the same schedule as the ones that they were hunting. MUSSOPO, Star, and Moki walked as long as they were able. It was already night time when they stopped to rest. They had trouble finding a cave or any other hollowed-out place to stay, so they found a fir tree with very low-hanging branches that almost touched the forest floor. All three of the creatures walked under the limbs and were covered all around by the branches. They had plenty of room, but still chose to sit close together for warmth and for company. As they sat in the quiet, Moki started the conversation. "When we talked earlier, I didn't say a lot about my puppyhood, because it was not the greatest of experiences," he said sadly. His friend sat silently, not interrupting, waiting for the dog to continue his story. "After I was born, I did feel loved by my mother, but I was much smaller than all the other puppies. It was hard for me to nurse because I didn't have the strength to get past my siblings. The family that cared for us called me the runt. I was scared when the family's father said that he should do away with the runt and that I probably wouldn't live anyway." MUSSOPO interrupted him. "That is horrible. Why would he say that?" "That is horrible," Star said, hardly believing her ears. Moki continued. "Well, he didn't do away with me, but I continued to not grow correctly, even though my mother tried to make sure that I got my fair share. Once we were old enough to play with, the children of the family never chose to play with me. I often sat in a pen by myself or with my mother, which gave me a chance to eat more. But by that time, she was trying to wean the pups. The family would feed us soft food because we were pups, but oftentimes I would get very little because I could not muscle my way to the bowl past the other puppies." "I am very sorry," both of the friends said at the same time. "Don't be. It was bad, but the worst is when the father of the family took us to the flea market to sell us. It was a day that I will never forget. It was the day that they took us from our mother. I was very sad, riding in the box to the flea market. The other puppies didn't seem to mind, but I did. I remember the sign on the box said puppies, $10, and I remember each of my siblings as they were sold. Some of them said goodbye as they were taken, and others just left. Eventually, there was just me left in the box. He had marked out the $10 part of the sign and scribbled free in big letters under the word puppies. Moki stopped for a moment to gather his thoughts. His friend sat quietly. He continued, I was excited. I thought, who wouldn't want a free puppy? But sadly, no one came. No one wanted me that day, and I mean no one. You see, when the father of the family got ready to leave and loaded his car, he left the box with me in it. I sat there and whined, unable to get out of the box, but all the people had already gone. There was no one to help me. I would scratch and scratch, trying to get out of the box, but nothing worked. I had no food or water, and it had gotten dark. I was very thirsty, but thankfully it started raining. At first I was relieved because I was able to quench my thirst, and then I became scared because the rain came down so hard. I was cold, and it was even hard to breathe. The water was so thick it stung when it hit my skin. But finally the box gave way under the wet panels, and I was finally able to break free. I didn't know where to go, so I just started eating what I could and sleeping where I could. That is very sad, MUSSOPO said, with Star quickly agreeing. Maybe a little, Moki said, but it is not all bad. My circumstances allowed me to come upon the rats trying to hurt my new friend. Moki smiled awkwardly, a near toothless smile that no one could see in the dark, but they all knew that he was smiling. That was chapter 7. I hope you enjoyed reading MUSSOPO and His Great Adventure with me. And again, I just want to encourage you, read lots and try writing. It's fun, and you never know, the next chapter could be yours.